His family sat in a stunned circle, not speaking, but asking 1,000 questions with their eyes. Who was that woman? Why did none of us know about her? Are the children his? What exactly happened? But none of them asked out loud. Because even they could see, he was just as confused as they were. Steve stood there watching their faces without an answer for them. It was as though the walls were closing in on him, so he turned and walked out of the room. He needed air. Or distance. Or maybe just the courage to face himself. He sat alone at the back garden, the part of the compound lined with beautifully kept flowers and quiet stone benches his father loved. The evening breeze was cool, but his chest still felt tight. After a while, his mother walked out slowly and sat across from him. She didn't speak. She didn't rush. She simply waited. "I'm as confused as everyone too, Mum," he finally whispered. His voice sounded like a man who had run out of places to hide. "Maybe you should start from the beginning." "I'm listening," she said softly. So he told her. Everything. From the first meeting, to the laughter, to the trust, to the one night they crossed the line, to the bet, to Mary walking away, and the silence that swallowed years. When he finished, his mother's face was pale with disbelief and disappointment. "That was foolish of you," she said quietly. "I raised you better than this." "I know, Mum." His voice broke. "I messed up, and I am so sorry." She looked at him steadily. "Did she tell you she was pregnant?" Steve blinked, startled. "No. She didn't. Mum, it was just once. That can't possibly." She cut him sharply. "It takes one time to make a child, Steve. Just once. You know that." Silence. Thick. Heavy. Inescapable. She inhaled deeply and murmured, almost to herself, "Be sure your sin will find you out." Numbers 32 verse 23. Steve looked away. His throat burned. "We need to find her," his mother said. "You need to apologize. Properly. Truthfully." "She's married, Mum," he whispered. Maybe all of this was just coincidence. Maybe the man is Ezra, that explains the name." His mother looked at him, not angry now, but deeply, painfully sure. "And what explains the resemblance?" she asked softly. "The little girl looking like Whitney. And the boy who looks exactly like you when you were his age." Steve froze. "What?" he breathed. Barely a sound. His mother nodded slowly. "Why do you think everyone has questions, Steve?" Her voice was almost a whisper. They saw it too. Steve offered to take Whitney to school on Monday, a casual gesture on the surface, but really, he was hoping. Hoping to see Mary. Hoping she would look at him. Hoping something would explain the knot in his chest. But Mary never came. 2 weeks passed. Nothing. A month. Still nothing. The silence became a weight he carried everywhere. His company kept winning contracts. His life kept moving on rails of success. But something was off. Something in him was unsettled. Restless. Incomplete. Mary, on the other hand, moved forward. Her heart had healed in scars, not in empty spaces. She was grateful. Grateful that the encounter ended cleanly. Grateful there was no second wave of pain. And God, in his timing, was smiling on her. Her firm had just been selected for one of the biggest online payment infrastructure contracts in the region. The kind of contract that shifts a company into a new league. That morning, she knelt beside her bed and prayed. "Lord, let the work of my hand speak. Let your favor go before me in Jesus' name. Amen." She dressed in quiet elegance, calm confidence, and drove with her team to the towering glass building for the final pitch and signing. The boardroom was breathtaking. Polished chrome, warm oak, screens that felt like windows into another world. Mary took it in with quiet awe. Then bowed her head once more, silently. "Thank you, God. You did this." The company representatives welcomed them and apologized that the executive director was delayed. He would join halfway, they explained. This contract was too sensitive for him not to be present. Mary nodded and began her presentation. Clear. Composed. Professional. She had the room. Halfway through, the door opened. He walked in. Steve. Looking every bit the respected leader he had become, the poise, the confidence, the sharpness. Mary's voice paused, just for a breath, when their eyes locked. But only for a breath. She finished her sentence. She finished her slide. She completed her presentation. Flawlessly. Inside, her spirit rose in prayer, steady and fierce. Devil, you are a liar. I am a tree planted by the rivers. My fruit comes in its season. No man formed of dust will rob me of what God has given me. She returned to her seat. The room applauded. But her pulse was loud in her ears. Her hands clasped together tightly, hidden under the table. He will not take this from me, she thought. Not this one. Now, I'd like to introduce you to our executive director. Mary already knew, but she lifted her head anyway. Mrs. Ezer, the chair said warmly, this is Mr. Steve Obinna Ezer, our executive director. Then the chair chuckled lightly, glancing between them. Well, would you look at that? Same surname. What a coincidence. He waved a hand dismissively. We Nigerians and our surnames. You'll find an Ezer in every state. Everyone laughed politely. But the air shifted. Not dramatically, not noticeably to the untrained eye, but Mary felt it. And Steve felt it. Their shared name sat in the middle of the room like a quiet question no one wanted to touch. Mary smiled bright, composed, gracious. She extended her hand. Good afternoon, Mr. Ezer. Mary smiled bright, innocent, gracious. The same smile she had worn the very first time she met him, before pain ever had a name. She extended her hand. Firm. Businesslike. Controlled. How's Whitney and everyone doing? Her tone was warm. Real. Balanced. Steve froze just slightly. We're fine, he managed. We loved the gifts, Mary continued. We truly appreciated them. Thank you. Her sincerity, her peace disarmed him. He shook her hand, bewildered. Why wasn't she acknowledging the past? Why wasn't she asking anything? Why did her eyes hold no pain? He was the one who felt exposed. Not her. The meeting continued. Numbers, terms, approval. Final signatures. Mary's pen moved with steady confidence. This was victory. Not over him but over who she used to be. Steve signed after her. Their signatures sat side by side. Past and present touching in ink, but not in soul. As the meeting concluded, Steve tried once more quietly, carefully. Mary. She looked at him. Calm. Whole. Untouchable. Yes. His mouth opened but the words would not come. Not do you remember me? Not were those children? Not I'm sorry. He could not ask questions he was not ready to hear the answers to. So instead, he whispered. Congratulations. You truly deserve this. Mary smiled soft, grounded, unshaken. I do, she replied. Then, with a gentle nod. Have a blessed day, Steve. She turned. Walked out. Her team followed. And the room felt suddenly too quiet. Steve stood alone, staring at the closed door. And for the first time in his adult life, he felt what it meant to lose something precious without even having the right to ask for it back. Mary had barely slept the night before. The meeting with Steve had unsettled her. So when her phone rang the next morning and she saw the true caller ID, Lolo Ezer, her heart paused. She answered anyway, voice gentle. Good morning, Ma. Mary, Grandma said, her tone warm, measured. Congratulations, my dear. I heard about the contract. That is no small thing. God has been good to you. Yes, Ma. He has. Thank you, Mary replied, polite, steady, though her fingers tightened slightly around the phone. There was a soft silence. A silence that meant something was coming. Mary waited. My dear, Grandma continued, I'd like us to have lunch on Sunday. Just you and the children. Around 2. Mary's breath caught. She couldn't go back there. Not yet. Not so soon. Not when her heart was still stitching itself together with prayer and willpower. Ma. Sunday may be difficult, she began gently. I have Would you refuse an old woman a lunch invitation? Grandma asked, voice still soft, but layered with something like knowing. Mary closed her eyes. She exhaled. No, ma. I would not. Good, Grandma said. Come with the children. I like them. You're raising them well. Mary swallowed. Thank you, Ma. We will see you on Sunday, Grandma said, and the call ended. Sunday at 2 p.m. Mary parked her car in front of the Ezra's mansion. The same house. The same polished driveway, the same iron gates. Her heart beat slowly, heavily, but her face remained calm. What harm can be done? It's just lunch. She reminded herself. Elizabeth and Ethan stepped out beside her, excited, unaware. She held their hands as they were ushered into the lavish sitting room, marble floors, gold accents, quiet air-conditioned stillness. Mary's breath was steady, her posture graceful. Grandma welcomed her with a warm, genuine embrace. Grandpa smiled and led the children to the corner where wooden carvings from old family travels Saturday. He began telling them stories in his rich baritone voice, and the children listened, wide-eyed. Lunch was simple, quiet, polite. Grandma asked her about work. Mary answered softly, thoughtfully, nothing more than needed. Then Grandma's gaze lowered to Mary's hand. Her voice was gentle, not prying, not confrontational, simply true. I see you wear a wedding ring. Mary froze. Just a breath, a tiny breath. Her fingers unconsciously touched the band, the ring that had shielded her. The ring that said, "Don't ask. I am not available. I am safe behind this wall." She looked up at Grandma. "Thou shalt not lie." The scripture wasn't spoken aloud, but it echoed. Clear, firm, undeniable. Mary swallowed. She exhaled. Her smile was soft, a smile that said you see me. A smile that said you understand. A smile that said I am tired of walls. Grandma nodded slowly knowingly. My dear, she said quietly, I understand. Her voice did not break. But something inside the room did. That ring, Grandma continued, eyes kind, will keep the good ones away. Mary's smile trembled, but did not fall. The good one, or the one who pretended to be good and broke me. She did not say it. The silence said enough. She looked down, blinked slowly, then lifted her chin. Still composed. Still Mary. Just then, one of Grandma's aides stepped into the room, whispering something into her ear, something urgent, something unexpected. Grandma's expression did not change. She turned to Mary. Stay, she said softly. Please. Mary looked up confused. The front door opened. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Weighted. Steve walked in. Steve had come to his parents' house for a casual visit, not expecting anything unusual. He entered the familiar halls, the soft hum of the air conditioning and the faint scent of Grandma's jasmine potpourri filling the space. Grandma had stepped out briefly with one of her aides. When she returned, Mary approached her with a polite smile. Thank you for the lovely lunch, Ma, she said, her tone calm, controlled. But we really must be going, urgent calls waiting. Grandma nodded, her eyes warm but sharp, as if reading more than Mary intended to show. Of course, my dear. Take care. Mary turned to her children, who had been quietly enjoying the warmth of the grandparents' home. Come on, darlings, she said softly, and they obeyed, still clinging to the memory of the stories Grandpa had told. Elizabeth and Ethan ran forward, hugging Grandma and Grandpa tightly. Grandma! Grandpa! They exclaimed in unison, their small voices filled with affection. Mary watched as her children's laughter and closeness made the older couple's eyes glisten slightly. Her heart tightened, a pang of something she didn't quite want to name, but she held her composure. Before leaving, Mary turned and gave both Grandma and Grandpa a respectful, heartfelt hug. Thank you, she said, her voice quiet but sincere. Her children waved enthusiastically at Mr. Steve across the room, their innocent smiles and energy softening the man's usual composed demeanor. Steve's lips twitched in a polite smile, but his eyes betrayed confusion and something deeper, an unease he didn't understand. Mary nodded at Steve, a gesture of acknowledgement that was careful, measured, and neutral. No warmth, no recognition of the past, only courtesy. With a final glance at the grand living room, she took her children's hands and led them to the car. The engine started, and as the vehicle pulled away down the long driveway, the family waved. Inside, Steve lingered by the doorway, watching them go. The breeze rustled the leaves in the garden, and for a brief moment, the silence between what was said and what was left unsaid filled the air. Mary drove steadily, her mind focused on her work, her children, and the life she had carefully built. But somewhere in the back of her thoughts, a quiet tension hummed, a prelude to a storm that neither of them yet knew was approaching. A few weeks later, Mary received a call from Grandma Eza. Her voice was warm, measured, and quietly insistent. "Mary, we're celebrating our 50th wedding anniversary next month. I'd like you and the children to join us. The whole family will be there." Mary's heart skipped. She hesitated. The thought of facing Steve again tightened her chest. I don't know, Ma," she said cautiously. "Bring the children. I want them with us. Please," she pleaded. "Okay, Ma," Mary said, her voice steady despite the unease curling in her stomach. The 50th anniversary of Steve's parents was in full swing. The Ezra's mansion glowed in soft evening light. Music floated quietly from the garden, laughter filled the air, and champagne sparkled in glasses. Mary arrived with Ethan and Elizabeth, her posture calm, composed, flawless. She smiled, greeted the hosts, exchanged pleasantries with distant relatives, all the while carefully avoiding Steve. Steve saw her. Her smile, her poise, the effortless elegance, it struck him like a blow. He felt the years collapse between them. He had tried to prepare himself for this day. He hadn't expected the intensity of seeing her again, the way her presence could still command a room. And yet, he followed the event in polite distance, waiting, watching. Before the main reception, Steve went upstairs to greet his parents. He knocked softly at their bedroom door. "Come in," his mother called. He stepped inside. They both looked at him, calm, composed, but their eyes held a quiet expectation. "Happy anniversary, Mum." "Dad," he said, hugging them. His smile was warm, but his eyes betrayed him. They could see the unease, the shadow of unrest behind his composed exterior. His father exchanged a long glance with his mother. "It is time," his father said quietly. Steve frowned. "Time for what?" His mother rose and handed him a cream-colored envelope, carefully sealed. "Our gift to you," she said softly. Steve opened the envelope with unsteady fingers. Paternity result, 99.9%. Father, Stephen Obinna Eza children, Ethan and Elizabeth. His vision blurred. His chest tightened so painfully it felt like his ribs were closing in on his heart. Tears pricked his eyes, sharp, unexpected, and he tried to blink them back, but they came anyway. His hands trembled violently as he held the paper, the weight of 8 silent years settling on his shoulders all at once. His mother stepped closer and placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. His father exhaled deeply, a mixture of relief, sadness, and quiet regret softening his features. "It is time to face the past, son," his father said softly. Steve swallowed hard, voice small and broken. "But, how? How did you even get?" He didn't finish the question. One look at his parents, firm, steady, unapologetic, told him everything. His mother spoke gently, in a tone that was both soft and unyielding. "We collected the cups and straws the children used the last time they visited," she said. The lab ran a discreet initial analysis. It showed a preliminary match, but that wasn't enough for certainty. Steve blinked, stunned. His father continued, his voice low and steady. "So we provided the lab with a cleaner DNA sample from you, your toothbrush." Steve felt a jolt in his gut. He had not even noticed anything missing. "With that," his father said, "they ran a full confirmatory test. 23 genetic markers." He paused, letting the truth settle between them. The results came back conclusive. Steve stared at the paper again, every line hammering into him. 99.9%. His children. His blood. His past he could no longer outrun. His fingers shook as the room seemed to tilt around him. 8 years of confusion. 8 years of regret. 8 years of searching for answers. All crystallized into one undeniable truth. Without another word, he turned and walked out of the room, slowly, heavily, the paper trembling in his grip. He descended the stairs, each step echoing with revelation, regret, and a rising storm of emotions he had no words for. His world had just changed, forever. Downstairs. Mary was in the kitchen, supervising the setup for dessert. She moved gracefully, handling tasks with ease, her mind calm, her children happily helping nearby. Steve entered, finally approaching her. He called her name softly. Mary. She didn't turn immediately. "We are about to leave," she said, her voice calm and even. "Stop pretending," he said, stepping closer. His tone was sharp now, urgent. Mary's hands tightened slightly at her sides. Her voice remained calm, even, as she said, "I don't know what you're talking about." As she walked past him and walked to the sitting room, his patience frayed. The restraint he had maintained for so long cracked. Finally, unable to contain the storm inside, he followed her into the sitting room. His voice rose, echoing off the high ceilings, filled with frustration, grief, and anger. "You're a coward, Mary. You run from everything, from the truth, from me." Mary, calm and unwavering, faced him. Her voice was soft, deceptively gentle, carrying the weight of steel beneath. "I don't know what you're talking about, Steve," she said quietly. The words were like a slap to the chest. Steve's pulse raced. The room seemed to shrink. "You run away from everything. From me. From the truth," he repeated, louder this time, following her with a heavy step. His frustration boiled over, a wildfire breaking free. The tension hung thick, tangible, as Mary remained calm, every gesture deliberate, every word measured. Yet inside, a storm roared, the memory of betrayal, of humiliation, of loss, all of it coiled tightly behind her eyes. And the room, previously filled with chatter, now held its breath. Every relative, every onlooker, felt the weight of history. Two people entangled in the consequences of choices made long ago, lives intertwined in ways neither could fully escape. Mary's children, Ethan and Elizabeth, stood at a distance, sensing the tension, their young hearts pounding. Yet Mary's strength, even in the face of Steve's storm, gave them courage. Steve's chest heaved. How can you just stand there like nothing happened?" "Because nothing happened, Steve." She responded with the same calmness. "How do you explain the resemblance between Elizabeth and Whitney? And Ethan? Mary, how do you explain this?" He thrust the document forward. DNA results, undeniable, unflinching. Mary's eyes fell on the papers for a heartbeat. Then, something buried for years rose like fire. The pain, the betrayal, the loss. A single, sharp breath. And then, a resounding slap that echoed through the room. Steve froze, shocked, disbelieving. Yet he did not flinch. "How dare you?" she breathed, voice trembling, eyes ablaze. "How dare you touch my children? You have crossed every line, Steve. I do not know you, and I will not introduce a liar as their father." Her words cut through the room like a blade. "I loved you. I gave up everything for you, my innocence, my faith, my reputation. You lied to me, deceived me. I was a pawn, a bet, a joke only worth 10 million naira." The women gasped. The children cried quietly. Even Steve felt a pang of something sharp and cold in his chest, remorse, horror, helplessness. He reached out, voice breaking. "Mary. I am sorry." She shrugged his hand away, her shoulders stiff, but her voice trembled with the weight of years of pain. "Sorry," she breathed, each word sharp, cutting. "Can your sorry undo the past? Can it erase the shame, the betrayal, the nights I cried myself to sleep? I was abandoned. My family, my church, everyone turned their backs. I had no one when I gave birth to them. No one held me. No one comforted me. I raised them alone, Steve. I nurtured them, protected them, loved them, by myself. You were nothing but a donor. Only a donor. They are mine. Mine and mine alone." Her eyes blazed with fury, sorrow, and a quiet, unyielding strength, and for the first time, Steve saw the full measure of what he had lost. Mary's eyes glimmered with tears, her heart raw, her courage blazing. She turned, leaving him in the room, surrounded by stunned family, carrying the weight of her story, her triumph, and her unyielding resolve. That night, her children were unusually quiet, their little hearts brimming with questions they didn't yet know how to ask. But Mary wasn't ready. Not tonight. Not like this. "I need to go to bed early, loves. I'm tired," she said gently, masking the storm inside her. She tucked them in, kissed their foreheads, and retreated to her room. Once the door closed behind her, the dam broke. She sank onto her bed and wept, silent at first, then with sobs that shook her frame. "God, why now? Why, God?" she whispered between ragged breaths. "I try to do right. I try to walk in faith, and yet, he hurts me so much." She buried her face in her hands. "Forgive as the Lord forgave you." The words, a gentle echo of scripture, only made the sorrow sharper. Her body shook as tears streaked her pillow, her heart breaking and healing in the same breath. Hours later, exhausted, she fell into a tear-soaked sleep. The next morning, the first sunlight carried a reminder. Make the most of every day, redeem the time, for the days are evil. Mary sat up, her resolve firming. Her children deserved the truth. Not all of it at once, but the beginnings. She called them together. "I want to tell you something about your father," she began carefully. Her voice was steady, though her heart raced. "I never showed you his picture or told you much because I wanted to protect you. But he is real. And he loves you." Elizabeth's eyes sparkled with delight. "Wait, so Whitney is really our cousin," she exclaimed. Ethan let out a sigh of relief. "So he's not just a story." "No," Mary said, smiling gently. "He's real. And he will always be a part of your lives." 1 week later, Mary made a call that would change their routine, and perhaps even their hearts. Steve answered, his voice cautious. "Hello." "Hello, Steve," Mary said clearly, deliberately calm. There was a pause. "Hi, Mary. How have you been?" "I'm good," she replied simply. The silence stretched, thick and loaded with memories. "The children, they would like to come spend the weekend at your place," she added softly. Steve's heart leapt. God answered faster than I ever imagined, he thought. He opened his mouth, hesitated. Mary said, "It's okay if you're not comfortable with it. I can tell them you're busy." Mary waited, sensing the tension in the pause. I'm fine. "Very okay with it," he said finally, voice honest, sincere. "Thank you, Mary. I really appreciate your thoughtfulness." "You're welcome," she said, ending the call with a soft exhale, letting a small weight lift off her chest. The weekends that followed were golden. Mary dropped the children off and watched as they returned brighter, happier, filled with stories of their father. Each visit came with a new memory verse, a new lesson, a new story about Steve's laughter, kindness, and presence. Mary had never expected to see this side of him. He was different, changed, faithful, reliable. And yet, a whisper tugged at her heart. "But what about you, Mary?" She didn't respond. She reminded herself that they had not revisited the past since the confrontation. Perhaps it was best. Steve went out of town for 4 weeks. Mary dropped the children at their grandparents' house and watched them rush inside with laughter spilling behind them. Her chest tightened. She missed the quiet moments, the softness in Steve's eyes when he gazed at her from a distance, sent shivers through her, a mix of longing and fear she hadn't felt in years. "You are not allowed to feel this, not after all these years," she reprimanded herself, tears trailing silently down her cheeks. Then, a familiar voice, gentle, wise, unmistakable, whispered behind her, "Love will find you if you leave a trail, Mary." Startled, she turned. Grandma Ezra stood there, eyes kind, knowing, unwavering. Mary gave a weak smile, nodded, and left, carrying both the ache and the hope in her. The evening was quiet. Steve had just returned the twins from their weekend with him. They ran into the house excitedly, their voices echoing through the spacious living room of Mary's duplex, a beautiful home she had built with hard work, sleepless nights, and the grace of God. Warm lights, soft furniture, a tasteful blend of modern and homely. Not extravagant like the Ezras, but elegant, welcoming, and undeniably filled with love. "Daddy, come inside," Elizabeth called out. Steve hesitated, unsure if he should step into her world. But Mary's voice surprised him. "You can come in, if you want." He turned. She stood at the doorway, poised, serene, confident. A woman who had rebuilt herself from ashes. "Are you sure?" he asked, voice low. Mary nodded gently. "Yes." He stepped inside. The door closed behind him quietly, like a chapter easing shut. The twins showed Steve the drawings he helped them create, the memory verses he taught them, and the little stories they wrote. Mary watched from the hallway, a soft smile on her lips, a quiet ache in her eyes. After prayers, she tucked them in. "Good night, Daddy. Good night, Mummy." "Good night, my loves," Mary whispered. When the door closed, the silence between her and Steve felt warm, not heavy. Mary led him into the main sitting room. Spacious, beautifully arranged, soft lighting, a gentle jasmine scent lingering in the air. Steve paused, taking in the space. It wasn't a mansion, but it was home, peaceful, warm, built carefully with love. Mary sat on one end of the large sectional sofa. "Sit," she said softly. He obeyed. She reached for a neatly arranged stack of photo albums on the center table. Her fingers brushed the cover slowly, reverently. She opened the first page. Tiny photos. Newborn faces. Small fists curled into little promises. Mary's voice softened. "A nurse took these," she said quietly. "I wasn't strong enough to hold a camera then." Steve froze. A tear slipped down his cheek. He traced Ethan's newborn hand with his finger, shaking. "They were so small," he whispered. Mary nodded. She turned the page. Ethan holding Elizabeth's hands as she tried to walk. Mary kneeling behind them, laughing without realizing the camera caught her. "Elizabeth walked before Ethan," Mary said with a small laugh. "He was too busy eating." "Still is." Steve laughed, genuinely, the sound breaking something heavy inside him. Another album. First birthday. A modest cake. 2 handmade crowns. "We didn't have much then," Mary said softly, "but they were happy. That's what mattered." Steve's eyes glistened. "You did, beautifully," he whispered. Another album. School pictures. Holiday pictures. Messy drawings. Little notes. Some photos made them laugh loudly. Some made them sit in silence. Some made them cry, softly, side by side. It was healing. Raw. Sacred. When the last picture closed, Steve turned to her. "Mary," his voice broke. Deep. Trembling. "I'm sorry." Mary lifted her eyes to him, calm, steady. "For everything," he continued. "For the bet. For humiliating you. For letting you go. For not being there. For every night you cried alone. For every moment you carried what I should have carried with you." Tears slipped down his face. "I'm so sorry, Mary." Mary inhaled slowly. Then she spoke. "I forgive you." Steve's breath caught. Not because the words were emotional, but because they were true. Clear. Final. Freeing. "Thank you," he whispered. Mary stood. Steve stood too, heart pounding, unsure. Mary extended her hand, calm and sure, her eyes soft but steady. "Let's start properly," she said, her voice gentle, mature, healed. A small, knowing smile lifted her lips. "My name is Mary Ezra." Steve felt his breath catch. For a moment, the room faded, the furniture, the photo albums, the quiet hum of the lights, everything softened around the warmth in her eyes. He stepped closer. Not rushed. Not desperate. Not broken. Just ready. He took her hand, his fingers curling around hers with a reverence he had never shown anyone before. A smile, slow, warm, grateful, spread across his face. "Steve Ezra," he said quietly, "nice to meet you." Their hands held, their eyes locked, and something in the air shifted, not loud, not dramatic, but steady, gentle, certain. A peace settled between them. A beginning wrapped in forgiveness. A doorway to whatever God wanted next. Not defined. Not promised. Not rushed. Just open. Two souls, finally breathing the same quiet truth. With their hands still joined, their hearts calm and unhurried, Mary smiled, a smile that held no pain, no bitterness, no fear. Just peace. And Steve, for the first time in 8 years, felt like he was standing exactly where he was meant to be.